This is the parish church of All Saints in the town of Dulverton. Today we're going to have a look around the church and around the graveyard and just have a look at some of the memorials. There's been a church on this site for over 800 years, but the building you're seeing in front of you, the oldest part, is the tower, which is 15th century. The main body of the church was rebuilt in Victorian times. Well, inside the church it's very dark and I can't see an easy way of putting on any lights. So we'll just see what we can do with the camera. There are a number of memorials high on the wall, but because of the low light, the camera is going to be better at reading them than the human eye. This is Robert Henry Collins, who died in 1918 from wounds received in France. Another member of the Collins family. He lived at Dulverton and practiced in the district for 55 years, a doctor-surgeon. Francis Tilney Bassett, who was 20 years vicar of this parish, 1827, looks like 98. This one to Humphrey Sydenham, but I can't read the rest of it from the ground here. And some more to the Sydenhams, and beneath it another one. And another one. These are very high on the wall near the entrance. Can't make out the wording with the human eye. Camera may do better. This one I can see the surname is Anstey. There were quite a number of interesting memorials in there, but unfortunately just too dark to see them. I couldn't find a light switch. There are some stones in the graveyard, although a lot of the stones have been moved to turn it into more of a lawn type cemetery. We'll have a little look at some of these stones, the readable ones. A little unusual is just a solid iron cross here. I can't see any inscription on it. It's quite different from all the normal stone memorials. This one's iron. At Huxtable. She was 73 when she died in 1892. Beneath that we have her husband William Huxtable, who died in 1895. This one is to Emma, the wife of Walter Weber Bab, 1885, aged 44 years. This one is to Grace, wife of Richard Hammond, 1891, aged 76. Now there's space underneath for Richard himself, but there's no memorial on this stone. Perhaps there was nobody left to arrange it to be done. Some flowers engraved in the stone at the top. And this is Emily, the beloved wife of Francis Shear Perry of Dulverton, 1895, aged 34. Her son, who died in 1893, aged 11 months. On the top of this stone we have the peace dove with an olive leaf in its mouth. And this is Harriet Carter, died 1863, aged 30 years. As wife and mother, seldom equalled, never excelled. And also her husband is beneath that. Looks like 1891. This one retains its iron railings. And along this side we can read that it's Elizabeth, the wife of the Reverend H.T. Taylor. And on the end it says she died in 1867. A rather elaborate cross on the top of this stone. Beneath we can see that it is to Harriet Sanders. A horizontal tomb. Inscription is still very readable. Mary, the beloved wife of Samuel Hayman Warren. And then Samuel Hayman Warren beneath that. And over the other side we've got the widow of Archibald Thompson. Presumably a family connection there. This is John Barrett Collins, a surgeon. Now we saw several memorials to Collins inside the church. And John's wife Elizabeth, she died in 1825. Very unusual stone here, with a sort of pitched roof on it. The name inscribed is the Reverend Francis Tilney Bassett, vicar of this parish. I've got a feeling we saw that inside the church a little earlier on. Anyway, an unusual design of stone. Beside the path there is this iron memorial. I'm assuming it's a memorial. It just has the name Northmoor and 1870. This is Sir Thomas Parmenter, 1900, age 67. And Eliza, his wife, who died 1898, so 2 years before him. But the inscription is actually below his. She was age 68. A pair of stones here in the same style, but one smaller, usually indicating a child's grave. The one on the right here, Robert Nicholson, 1905, age 65, and then Sarah Elizabeth, his wife, in 1907. And across to this one, unfortunately, we can only see 1905, aged 7 years. It doesn't seem as though he'd be the child of the one on the right, because that would have made the father 58 and the mother a similar age. So maybe it's a grandchild of the couple over here. Frederick George Thorne, age 47, in 1913. And then beneath that we have William Thorne, his brother, 1935, age 65. Perhaps those two brothers never married. Now here we have two war graves. The first one is Private F. Gunny, Labour Corps, 1921, age 30. Behind we have Sergeant W.C. Hales, Devonshire Regiment, 1921, age 38. On this one too we have an elaborate cross, a bit unusual, and the inscription at the beneath, Jessie Louise, wife of Frank Goodland and beloved and only child of Mark and Louisa Durbin. She was aged 34 years. This one retains its iron railings, and the memorial is to Nathan Snow and Mary Ann, his wife. A very clear inscription. Elizabeth Ann Warren, 1916, age 55. And then beneath that her mother, Mary Ann Prideaux, 1920, age 91. No mention of their husbands. A rather unusual surname on this memorial. We have Letitia Shoppy, born 1895, died 1968, last surviving daughter of Captain and Mrs. Charles Bigot. Quite a number of the stones in this churchyard have lost their inscriptions. I imagine it's because they're using a fairly soft stone in this area. And then you get one in a different type of stone which has survived much better. Charles Pearce, who died in 1859. His wife Anne died in 1876. And their children, 1833 aged 3, 1842 aged 2, 1845 aged 2, and 1876 aged 9 months. That's a big jump from 45 to 76. Anyway, there's 4 children, young children, that they lost. Interesting enough, the mother died in the same year as the last child, 1876. I don't know if that's connected. Well, I'm going to leave the parish church of Dulverton now. Some distance outside the town along Jury Road is the modern cemetery, as the churchyard is completely full now. And these are the more modern graves in Dulverton. This one stood out as I walked amongst the memorials. Harry Verdun Tout, 1989, aged 73. That means he was born in 1916 with the horrendous Battle of Verdun took place. So he's been named after the battle, perhaps as a family connection. Maybe a relative was lost in it. Maybe even his father. So Harry Verdun Tout. Small stone beside the path. And it's Sister M. Alex Kern and Sister M. Gabrielle Louvet, Canonesses of St. Augustine. Jane Elizabeth Backhouse, 1943 to 46, so she wasn't quite 3 years old. She was the second daughter of John Backhouse, who died in 1944 of wounds in France. So when she was just over a year old, he died, and then she died a year or so later. Poor old Jean. The town has a relatively modern war memorial. It's in one of the parks down by the river. On 3 sides are the names of those who died in the First War. I made that 35 names. Now Dulverton is not a big town, and it must have been a huge loss. 35 young men who gave their lives. 4th side we have 8 names of those who died in the Second War, and also at the bottom a memorial to HMS Dulverton, who was lost with 77 crew. Well, that's my visit to Dulverton, to the church and the churchyard, and then the graveyard extension. Till the next time.